boys and girls, and all of God's children. Welcome to the Church School Neighborhood. I'm Sister Angie Spears, the excited South District Church School Superintendent, and my presiding elder is the Reverend Janet Jenkins Sturdivant of the South District of the Philadelphia Annual Conference. Again, we welcome you today, and what a wonderful lesson we have today. Our lesson, if you are studying in the youth book of the AME Church, the lesson is titled Facing Life's Storms. And it's coming from Job, the first chapter, and then going a little bit into Job, the second chapter. In the adult books, it's still the book of Job, and the lesson is Bildad misunderstands God's justice. And in this lesson, it's looking at Job chapter 8. If you know the story of Job, you'll know that Job was a good man. He was a very good man. And Satan said to God, "Oh, he's so good because you've given him everything. What would happen if you allowed everything to be taken from him? What if I just made certain things, that things were taken away?" And so what happens when we're in the first chapter of Job, we find out there's a lot of catastrophes that happen. He loses his servants. He loses his sheep. He loses his sons and daughters. He loses his home. He becomes so sick. He has boils, like sores, all over his body, even on his feet. So he can't even stand up. They're on his back. So if he tries to lie down, he still is extremely uncomfortable. So that is how how the story of Job starts. And when we get into the adult lesson, where the title is Bildad Misunderstands God's Justice, Bildad is one of Job's friends, and he's one that comes and sees Job in his distress, and Job is beginning to cry out, going, oh, kind of like, woe is me. Look at all these things that are happening to me, and they shouldn't. And what Bildad does, he says, "Job, you're acting like you're a righteous man." Well, certainly, you need to start thinking. You probably did something. Certainly, you must have sinned for these things to come upon you. And as we know, Job hadn't done anything wrong. And so this friend is misunderstanding what is happening. He's misunderstanding, and he's telling Job, these things they really have to be happening because you have sinned. So when we looked at this lesson and we looked at that word misunderstand, both Buttercup and Patches had really great examples of the word misunderstand. Buttercup, why don't you begin? Buttercup says that his mom tells a story that when she first met his dad as they were in high school, and the dad was very shy. So they were dating, but the dad was so shy. He would never invite her to school dances. When other people would say, "Oh, who's your girlfriend?" he would never say her name. Well, her friends, including her sisters, they started telling her, "I don't think he likes you. He can't like you. He doesn't even take you to any dances." And we've seen a dance, sometimes when you end up at the same dance, he doesn't even come over to ask you to dance. But they didn't understand. They misunderstood his shyness, that he didn't like her. And as we know, they did get married, didn't they? One day he proposed a few years later, and all their friends were like, "Oh my goodness," they had misunderstood. So it's very good that she didn't listen to their interpretation of what was going on. What was your example, Patches, of misunderstand? Patches, as you know, does so well in school. And he says that his second grade teacher, his name was Mr. Gary. And Mr. Gary, he would give Patches really hard I mean, if they had spelling words, he would ask Patches that he'd give them a new words. Okay, Patches, can you spell that? When there were hard things for the kids to learn, he'd say, Patches, I want you to go up to the board and answer that question and tell the class why that answer is what it is. And so some of the kids said, Patches, we don't think Mr. Gary likes you. And one day, one of the little guys in the class, he says, Patches, I know Mr. Gary doesn't like you because I counted. He called on you 9 times today, and everything was really the toughest stuff ever. So again, the class is saying, Patches, Mr. Gary doesn't like you. That's why he's calling on you. They misunderstood Mr. Gary. What did you say, Patches? Patches says that Mr. Gary was being tough on him. And Mr. Gary even told him, he says, Patches, I know you have potential. And I just wanted to stretch you. I think that you can do so much, anything you set your mind on. So when Patches won the science competition and he was able to give a little talk, he thanked Mr. Gary. He says, I want to thank my 2nd grade teacher who always gave me really the tough stuff. And he encouraged me to read and he encouraged me to learn things that I didn't know. And I want to thank Mr. Gary. So while all the other kids were misunderstanding why Mr. Gary was seemingly being rough on Patches, he was really helping Patches. Excellent, excellent. I know you're going to enjoy your church school lesson. Let's take a look at our memory verse. And as you remember, the friend who was giving Job bad advice, telling him why these things were happening to him, his name was Bildad. And he was a Shuhite. Then Bildad the Shuhite answered, how long will you say these things? Can you fill that out with me? Then Bildad the Shuhite answered, how will you these, can you fill that out with me? How long will you say these things? So again, he's listening to Job, kind of going, oh, these things are happening, and I'm a good man. I don't know why they're happening. And then he comes in with really bad advice as to why he thinks he misunderstands. And so he's telling Job, these things are happening because you are really a sinner. You have to be a sinner, and God is punishing you. We know you're going to enjoy this lesson in your church school class, and we trust that you'll be with us next week. Our lesson will still be in the book of Job. We will be in the 42nd chapter, and the lesson is titled, Serving a Just God. We know that you're going to be blessed in the lessons. God bless you. Bye-bye.